Hey everybody, welcome back to Anime Sekai Podcast. I am your host, Ichigo, and I am joined by my best friend.
Mikan here. Hey guys.
Join us this week as we sit back with a very special guest and discuss gatekeeping in the anime community. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Friday.
Yay.
Yay! Best day of the week. So, this week we are going to discuss gatekeeping within the anime community. And we have a very special guest who has joined us for this episode. Please give a warm welcome to Dave of Treehouse Anime Pod. Yay! Welcome, Dave.
Howdy, y'all. Thanks for having me.
So happy to have you.
I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate having you on the show. And why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us about how you got into the anime community, your favorite anime, all the good stuff.
Sure thing. Well, like you said, my podcast is the Treehouse Anime Club. I've been a member of the anime community, you could say, for about 15 years. I started kind of like a lot of my other friends in high school. I was kind of the new kid in town, and just this group brought me in, and they introduced me to Full Metal Alchemist. And I'd seen a couple of shows like the Toonami Block, and my first episode was like on Kiki's Delivery Service that I just randomly saw on Disney Channel. But Fullmetal Alchemist was like the first one that they introduced to me, but it was really Soul Eater in 2008 where I was watching it and like, okay, this is awesome. It's hard to believe that, like, even now it's like 15 years just to almost to the dot, because it was more of a fall series. It really was like 2008 to 2009. Yeah, that's the one that kind of stuck with me and still sticks with me. So as far as my entry into the community, it was really like a local group.
I love that you had
as
like a
far-
little friend group that got you into this.
Yeah, we were all like, the nerd group. Really, we were like the band geeks sort of the group. Cultural oasis, as you could say, during that time.
Oh,
Oh, that's
yeah.
beautiful. I
Growing
love
up in
that.
the
But
90s as an anime fan was definitely a vibe.
yeah, but it was still something that when I started as a fan, it really wasn't like cool or really even to like be like a comic book or just anything that wasn't like sports or just more like general things. Like just being a nerd about anything was kind of, you're going to get made fun of for that. So a lot of my early fandom was really kind of keeping it to myself. And it really wasn't until like college that when I joined my college's anime club that I really started to branch out and really get into the wider sense of the anime community. Because even online, it was kind of a minefield online in some places.
Yeah.
At least
It's,
early
yeah.
on. Now
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's pretty great.
Yeah. And it's more accessible too. So not like back
Yeah.
then.
So much more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, the podcast I've run is the Treehouse Anime Club. So it's something that really like a lot of things during the pandemic, I had a lot of time to reflect upon some things, and
hmm
as well as life is too short. Just go out and do what you want. But it still took me a while to actually get up the nerve to really like. It's one thing to say like I'm going to do this. It's another thing to like actually get out and start something.
Mm-hmm.
But I had
Yeah.
a buddy of mine, and I'm gonna rep the Unbuckled Comics podcast. So this is a guy named Unbuckled Cape. He's just celebrating
hmm
his first year of podcasting, actually. So he and I were
Oh.
basically sitting in
Yay!
Discord, going, "Man, we really want to do like this podcasting thing." It's a
hmm
really cool podcast too. So he reviews comic books, and so he got an earlier start. And then once I saw him going, he was kind of like, "Well, no, I can't back down." So he started
Yeah.
about a year ago, and I started about 6 months after him. It was either start a podcast or get a PlayStation 5.
Oh man, I got both of those.
Well, I think this Christmas will be the PlayStation 5, possibly. We'll have to see what's in the cards, but I
Yes.
think this is the much better decision. So
Well, we're glad that you picked the podcast so that you could be here with us today.
Yes. Yes, most definitely. Thank you so
Oh, I'm
much.
flattered.
Like,
Honestly, this is so new, and it's just really fun, to have another person to be able to talk to about this, and it's
hmm
super exciting.
yeah, the best thing about the anime community is that it brings people together, and it brings us together on something so specific that it's
Mhm,
Hmm.
just it's almost like we're family without really being blood related
mhm.
in certain aspects.
It's weird in a good way too, because anime, even now, we're all sitting in this bubble. But even just looking around in general culture, anime is still somehow like just incredibly niche in the States. Even with all of the corporations throwing around like the really big money now. Like it's one of
Yeah.
those, even
Mhm.
with the One Piece
Mhm.
live action, I think that's gonna do a lot to bring it more. That's about as mainstream as anime has ever been. Like literally, I think
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
that I don't think
Oh
that's an
yeah.
overstatement.
And I just
No,
love it
that's
because it's like,
that's truth.
it's something when I meet somebody or, like, see somebody wearing merch or something, I just know it's like I know a secret about them, and I just love that. Even though
Mhm.
I don't know anything
Mhm.
about them, I just know that we have that connection, and I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Well, and I've had people, if
Mhm.
I go to our local mall and I have a Sailor Moon backpack that I carry around with me when I go shopping. And I've had countless people come up and just, oh, if that's Sailor Moon, are you a Sailor Moon fan? Oh, I love Sailor Moon. I used to watch it when I was a kid, and
Mhm.
now I'm watching it the revamp as an adult. And my most favorite memory
Oh
is
yeah,
this is
Crystal.
recent. Yeah, Crystal was, I could talk for weeks on Crystal, but my most recent memory was of this little girl, and I'm gonna say her age was in between 7 to 10 years old. So this is like, there's a huge gap. Sailor Moon hasn't been on TV for us in a long time. And she happened to notice my Sailor Moon bag, and she was staring at me from across the room, and it was either her mother or maybe her older sister who brought her over to me and was like, I'm sorry, she keeps staring, but she's such a big Sailor Moon fan. She loves it. And I said, oh, really? So I went in my little purse and I pulled out all of my Sailor Moon merch. I had my wallet with me, I had my bracelets with me, I had my
She's got a whole
jewelry
outfit,
with me.
a whole
I actually
gear.
did have I actually did have my
All
Sailor
the
Moon
all the
t-shirt
stuff you
on
got
that
fresh from the
day.
motherland a couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, she got
Yes.
even more.
Pretty much. Everything that I had that was, I literally, well, and this is truthful. Like, I even had my Sailor Moon Vans on. I was decked out in full Sailor Moon gear. And I just thought it was so amazing that this little girl instantly recognized it. And she is, I know for a fact, at least 3 generations under me.
Under
And
you,
I'm like,
yeah.
wow, she really
Yeah.
loves Sailor Moon, and just the look in her eyes and how bright they were. I was like, anime needs to be protected to a certain extent. Like, I want to share it with everybody, but I also want to keep it in that, exclusivity bubble that we're still kind of in.
Mm. Going off
Which,
of
mhm,
gatekeeping, like, how do you guys feel about, like, you just mentioned that you kind of still wanna keep it sort of niche in a way, I guess I would say. How do you feel, Dave?
I'm,
I'm not sure if there really is gatekeeping to the extent that it used to be, because if you're thinking of other nerd communities that we share a space with, and I'm thinking back to like the original conventions when anime would be like this corner of the science fiction conventions, like with the Star Trek and
mhm,
the Star Wars. But if you're looking at communities, even with a wider deal, like with Unbuckled and his comics podcast, like there's a clear canon. There's a clear starting point. If you want to understand like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, they all have an origin story. So if you
right,
consider yourself a fan of those properties, that's the bare minimum to be a fan. You got to know their whole thing and kind of like their whole deal.
mhm.
And you start to think about like, where the hell is that for anime? Like we don't have a canon starting point,
Mm,
which makes the whole concept interesting. But then you get into, is it something, do you need a familiarity with Japanese culture? Or do you need a familiarity with certain terms? Like how genre savvy and are how term savvy do you have to be, like the shonen, shoujo, the different genre titles, you know.
Like how much you need to
Mhm.
know,
Do
actually.
y'all and I wanted to
Right.
ask, like, do y'all remember, like, back in the 2000s or, like, even the late 90s when there was, like, the concept of, quote, "classic anime"? Like, this is, like, your holy bible of, like, this is the anime
Yes.
that you need to watch to be
Yep.
considered a, quote,
Yep.
"fan."
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. What were
yes.
what were some of those titles, you know?
I want
Yeah.
to say it was the big three for me as,
Mhm.
but in addition to the big three, where I grew up, because a lot of people didn't have full access to the big three. They only had access to either Bleach or Dragon Ball Z, or going back in the earlier 90s, Yu-Gi-Oh.
I
And
see.
so
Huh,
for
I would never
me,
have
it
guessed Yu-Gi-Oh!
was for us it was, if you are not a Yu-Gi-Oh fan and if you don't have these particular Yu-Gi-Oh cards, you're not a true anime fan. That's how it was for me growing up. And I'm like, well, I like Yu-Gi-Oh. I
Oof.
mean, I went so far, I had the whole arm deck thing that you put on your
Mhm.
arm. I had a full, I went to Walmart every Saturday to go get the Yu-Gi-Oh cards to put just to feel like I had to prove, like, I watch anime. I play video games. I like anime style video games. Like, include
That's
me.
that's interesting because it was
Mm.
kind of the opposite for me, where if you watch Dragon Ball or Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, it was just typically on TV. So you weren't considered really a fan because the ones you had to look for, those were the ones, like if somebody said, "Oh, I've been watching like Naruto or One Piece," that you had to torrent, like the next episode, you had to find that in the dark web somewhere in order to be able to watch it.
Yeah.
So that's what at least the people I knew, like that's what we would watch and that's what we would consider. And we have like group sessions. Somebody would download it, hoping it was the right thing. Half the time you'd be praying you had the right anime and the right episode, and it wasn't just some random thing you were downloading. So it was kind of like
Or
the
a
opposite
virus.
for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Or
Exactly. I don't
something
know how we
else.
made it. I don't know how we made it like that far without like without any
Also a
protection. I don't
virus.
know. Exactly.
Yeah.
In my case, it wasn't so much my friend group that was gatekeepery. It was I remember distinctly it was if you want to consider yourself an anime fan, you need to be well-rounded. And some of
Okay.
the things at the time, there was of
Mhm.
course Soul Eater, so that kind of covered the shonen category. Clanad was big at the time, like Clanad After Story was airing, so it's like that was my
Mhm.
romance
Mm.
pick. Death Note was still very big, so that was like
Oh
your
yeah.
suspense mystery. So okay, what's the
Mhm.
mecha? Well, let's try Gundam Wing. It was like they
Mhm.
wanted me to experience one thing from each genre, and only
Mhm.
then when I could like hold a conversation about the things and like hold a conversation on what made it good or different things like that. When I went to the online space and the chat rooms in the forums, I kind of bounced off of all of that because there was more of, well, you have to watch Evangelion, you have to watch this show, you have to watch this show, this show, this show. It was like a whole laundry list of shows that I had to watch.
Yeah.
Kind of like like you said, the Yu-Gi-Oh card. Why do I
Mhm.
have to watch this particular show? Like I like these other things, but
Yeah, like the
in a
big ones
way,
kind of, I guess, or like what people
yeah,
categorize as
just
like
the
the
big
big.
ones. Like
Yeah.
ironically, not so much the big three,
Yeah, I feel like
but some
if
people
you
will swear by the big three
yeah, I feel like if you're
Some
a
people still
big.
swear by the big three.
Oh, yeah, they do. But I feel like
because
people
they're
are
still
like,
around.
"You gotta know it,"
They won't let them die.
Yeah. One Piece will be around for, like, the next 5 generations.
That does kind of lead into something interesting, though, I think, because with increased access, and just because there's so many cartoons being made as well,
Mhm.
Mhm.
it's really kind of, I think it's kind of shifted from an overall look at the anime deal, and now you have people who only follow like one show.
Oh,
Like you're a fan
yeah.
Yeah.
of one show. It's like so many more segmented communities. So it's like maybe more
Mhm.
accurate to think of if you want to be again, like a One Piece fan, then, good luck. You've got 20 years of stuff to get through. But
Yeah.
it's if you're talking about the current shonen stuff, it's like, okay, if do you want to be a cosplayer? Do you want, even then it's like cosplay groups, fanzines, watch parties, just whatever you're into. It's just so much more segmented, which comes with
Mhm.
its own uh, set of good and challenges.
Right,
I do think
right.
now that since you can watch things easily, people watch, like, shows from other places. You might watch an occasional German
Hmm.
show because it's, like, popular, and then you might watch, 1 or 2 series of animes, and then you might move on to, like, K-drama. Like, I feel like a lot of people are just more versatile now because the options are kind of endless and they're available,
Yeah.
and I feel like those kinds of people are, in
Hmm.
my opinion, a little more like casual watchers. They don't really know about anime, they've just seen it, if that makes sense.
That
Like I said,
does
they
make
like that
sense,
one
but
show.
yeah, they like that one particular show, but I
Mhm.
feel like once COVID hit, then you see like this influx of casual anime watchers to the
Yeah.
point where those casual anime watchers, and I'm not saying I'm keeping them out the anime community, any and everybody is welcome, but what I am saying is those people who kind of joined on the anime bandwagon during COVID that
Mhm.
are, I'll say our age group, that weren't on the bandwagon back in the 90s when we started on the bandwagon, those are the ones that's like, yes, you are welcome. But at the same time, don't come to me talking about, did you hear about this show? Oh, you're not a fan of this show? Well, you're not a true anime fan if you haven't watched One Piece. You're not a true anime fan if you don't like Demon Slayer. You're not a true anime fan if you don't like Jujutsu Kaisen. And I'm just like, for me personally, Mikon forced me to watch Jujutsu Kaisen. I love it now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I'm still not, it's too late for me to join on that One Piece bandwagon. And if that
It's
kicks me
never
out of
too
the
late.
anime community,
Oh
I'm
no.
sorry. It's too late. It's that I watched it when it first came out in English. I'm done. I'm good. I'm good.
Honestly, just once it ends, if it ever ends, you can start watching then, because at least you know
No.
there's an end.
Somebody gonna have to pay.
At
That's
this
a
point,
full-time job.
I'll just take another stab at the manga. I'll just take another
That's
stab at the
no, the
Yeah.
manga.
manga is better.
I
It's
never
much.
watched the Big Three.
Oh, none of them?
I haven't watched all the way through. Like I never
Yeah,
kept up
yeah.
with Naruto or anything, but I read Naruto, Bleach, One Piece to varying
Mhm.
degrees. Probably Naruto the most. Like I was actually caught up with the Naruto manga at one point, and
Yeah.
then I
Mm.
was just like, okay, I'm tired of this. I've read all of Dragon Ball Z, but I haven't watched all of Dragon Ball Z, like the original.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's one of those, you put it in front of me, and I'll kind of go like, yeah, I know what moment you're talking about, but only in this manga deal.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm
No, that
actually
makes
reading back
sense.
through Fairy Tale of all things.
Oh, really?
That's
How's
another show
that?
they need to bring back.
I think so. I thought that adaptation ended, or the more recent anime ended.
They
Yeah.
had a recent one? Oh.
But as far
Yeah, they did.
as okay, you did okay. So yeah, so as far as the online discourse about things in general, like yeah, I by and large, if you're gonna have anything, it's gonna be a lot of the shonen series that are kind of like the most are obviously gonna be the most popular. So it's
Popular,
gonna have
yeah.
the largest
Hmm.
group of people kind of attached to it. And so of course,
Hmm.
yeah, some of those voices, it's like if you don't like my show, then blah blah blah. That's not so much gatekeeping. That's just people being like that on the internet.
Yeah, or, like,
I
Yeah.
think you
disagree
get
in general.
into just think things in general. It's like shonen to me is like popcorn. I can't really subsist on popcorn, and I've seen so many, like again, my first thing was like Soul Eater, and I've watched a couple of other shonen series. It's like watching a shonen thing. I was like, okay, we're at this part of the story. We're at this part of the arc. Yeah, we're
Mhm.
gonna do these tropes, and like, yep. I'm just checking off a list. Popcorn, just shoving
Hmm.
it in my mouth. So it's good, but I don't. It's one thing I don't really do anymore. But when you have that's your biggest audience, it is the most popular. It's just kind of feeling on the outside, maybe at some times, if I was to kind of equate it to
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything.
and especially if, like, in this kinda community, because as a person doing a podcast, obviously, there's an audience that you're, trying to reach, and typically what's most popular is how you get people, or like how you can communicate with other people, and that typically tends to be whatever is, shown in and whatever
Mhm.
is like the most watched currently.
Yeah.
There was you said something each ago about during the COVID deal, and I think this speaks to in a way maybe kind of like the third phase of the conversation of how generations of fans come in and out. Because really, who decides the quote rules of a community than the present community?
Hmm.
And the largest groups of anime fans, at least age demographic, tends to be those the teenage audience when we're talking about like the high schoolers and kind of like the early college folks. But then
Hmm.
we
Mhm.
have most fans, and I'm going to generalize a lot here, but most fans tend to go about 2-3 years where they're like super into everything, or like they're super into like one show. It's all they can think about. And then, you just kind of get too much, or you reach that point where it's like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And there's that point where you either stop watching and kind of go, okay, I'm done with that, phase of my life, or you're just like in it for the long haul. So there are things that we tend to go through. You can kind of see this generationally as a community, even like in the big trends. Like one of the big ones was, of course, Sword Art Online
Oh
about
yeah.
10 years ago. Big whole
Yep.
group of like these gatekeepers. Well, we have these gateway anime that just like blow up. And SAO
Mhm.
was one of those. And
Yep.
then we had another one with like the Isekai wave, ReZero. So you have a whole wave of those people
Mhm.
coming in.
Hmm.
And so if
Mhm.
there's anything about if there's anything that I think about how people enter the anime community and kind of determine what makes up the anime community, it's a lot of those folks who come in with these different waves. And it's a lovely mix of ideas. We kind of come in fresh every couple of years, but it's also because this is kind of like a new hobby, and people, when you tend to get like very passionate about being in that new hobby at that first time, you could be
Mhm.
very defensive at times.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And that might
Yeah.
be maybe instead of a group of nerds like all kind of like linking arms and gatekeeping, like it was back in the VHS days when it was so much into like the streaming and like the torrenting days, where it was so much more harder to find this stuff. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
you had to like literally know somebody to kind of get in.
Yeah.
And now it's like anime is such a ubiquitous term, just about. It's literally like
Mhm.
thrown around as a marketing term.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
as far as gatekeeping in the community, the walls, as I look at it, the walls are pretty much down. If there's
Hmm.
any kind of gatekeeping, it's going to be with your tentpole shows, or like your gateway shows, your big popular things.
Right.
Yeah. And I agree. I actually was talking with somebody a little while ago about new viewers of anime, if they would put in as much work to watch like the current shows that they're watching as like we had to back in the day. I don't think a lot of them would. You know what I mean? It just wouldn't
Mm.
be as much effort. Does that mean that the people who did back then maybe liked anime more or not? I mean, that's questionable, but I do think a lot of watchers today would not be watching if it was not as accessible.
No. Yeah, I think like anime fans back in the 90s, like we saw something, we liked it, so we wanted to learn more about it. And back then, our generation was like, okay, well, if I want to learn more about it, I got to do my research for it. Whereas now you have different media outlets: Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, Amazon Prime, High Dive, Crunchyroll, and more. All these different outlets that now offer anime, that all you have to do is just type in, okay, I want to watch this anime. Let me Google it. And it'll show you where you can just go quickly, easily watch it.
It's a good question though. Is that in a way, is a good thing that it's broadening more people's horizon, I guess. But as far as discussing how deeply people are invested in anime, I mean,
Hmm.
it's a good question because,
That's a slippery slope.
hmm
I don't know if
Yeah.
that's a
yeah, you
I
can't
don't know I
really,
don't know how productive a line of reasoning that would be, but it's
yeah.
something to kind of briefly think about. I'm interested to see where this medium goes forward, because there's a lot of things happening. Because not only is there more anime being made, there's just more content being made all across the
Yes.
board. It's having to, and it's not just anime, like everything is competing with everything else so much more.
Yeah.
Everything that we enjoy, and this is a niche kind of thing, and it's getting more mainstream because we got more money being put into it. But there's just a lot of where we're still kind of charting new waters here in the streaming environment. There's just too much of everything going on right now.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
for me, I'm pretty much an anime only watcher, just about. There's a couple things on cable that I watch with my wife, like competitions, cooking shows, like,
Yeah.
but I don't watch any other streaming stuff. But this is just me. This is only my experience. And there are
Yeah.
so many other things of I have so many friends who are Star Wars fans and they are, eating up Ahsoka right now.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things of I don't know if it's so much that anime fans are I don't think it's a fact that anime fans are less passionate nowadays. If you're talking about the more like casual coming in, well, there's nothing wrong with trying out a hobby for a couple of years and going, okay, that was fine. That I'm done with that.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
everything's going to be forever.
And I
Right.
mean, also
But
think
even
about like,
for those of us who have been around for a while, it's a different world. And
yeah.
I've been doing this for 15 years and I just like animation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, even like the cons compared to how it used to be, so many more people go, packed to the
Hmm.
brim, it's just in general, like people are interested and people are invested. It's just reaches a wider audience.
Well, and the other thing about that is now you see other states with smaller cities that are having their own anime conventions because they realize that it has become a popular medium, regardless of
That
where
is
you
cool to
are
see
on
though. Yeah.
the. Yeah, oh, well, where I live, they had an anime convention, and I was like, where were these when I was growing up? You had to you had to travel at, so many states over just to go to a nice big anime convention, and now they've got a compared to the
You,
bigger ones, they're smaller, but like the
yeah,
small local
you had to come
version.
to me to get the big one,
Yeah, I had to get to you just to get to the big
all the
areas,
big,
but
big good stuff.
but the one thing I will say, and this is actually my question for both of you, is you see anime becoming such a big medium to the point that now popular brands are collaborating with with anime, I guess, like the companies. So for
Mhm.
example, you have ColourPop, who has released several anime makeup
Mhm.
palette brands and stuff like that. ColourPop had a collaboration with Sailor Moon. They just recently did Naruto, and then I think as of maybe this 2 weeks ago, they just released another Sailor Moon collaboration. You've got Jimmy Choo, who's did a Sailor Moon collaboration. You've
Mhm.
got Crocs
Crocs.
is now releasing their Demon Slayer.
I get those ads everywhere.
Um, you get Crocs. I think they even did a Pokemon anime collaboration, and all of these like big companies that, back in the day, they didn't in that direction.
Mhm.
So my question is, how do you feel about bigger brands now trying to, in my eyes, a little bit, just a little bit, jump on the anime bandwagon?
Cash in.
I mean, yeah, very true.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I mean, more merch for people who are interested. And I mean, they do things, with other movies. So why not anime?
I mean, I get that, but I'm not paying $800 for no Sailor Moon boots that are bedazzled.
Somebody is.
I mean, yeah, somebody is, but the
Somebody
now, mind you,
somebody is, yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, somebody is.
Somebody
That's
is.
the thing. But my thing is like brands like Jimmy Choo, Gucci, and like the designer, high-end designer brands that are collaborating with anime, they're selling their own products in collaboration with that brand. So that means the people that can afford it are on the high end of that spectrum. Anime fans who do it casually, who are like, you know what, I really want those Jimmy Choo Sailor Moon collaboration boots, but they are $8,000. Let me go to my paycheck and see how much it will take me and you see what I'm saying? So it's like,
Wait, did it
I
jump
think
from
it's
800 to 8,000? It jumped from 800 to
Yeah,
8,000.
I did jump. So I was thinking, I was
Even then
like, those boots
800.
were not
I do pretty
800.
well for myself, but even I ain't paying no $800 for no boots.
No, I'm not
Yeah.
either. Like, I'm not paying 800. If they were $150, yes. But Vans too. Vans had a collaboration with Sailor Moon, and I did get me some shoes. But I'm not going to Jimmy Choo just to get a purse for however much that purse cost. I
Yeah.
think it's great and I think it looks
Right.
amazing and I think it's bringing attention to the anime and it's drawing people in, but
So I think somebody will buy it, and especially like if it's an interest that, in my personal opinion, like a niche interest or something that they do limited edition, people tend to buy it, you know?
yeah.
And I feel like anime is kind of like an easy sector to go into because I do think, in my personal opinion, anime fans buy a lot of merch and stuff, particularly like the really high level anime fans who are like
Mhm.
into everything related to that. They have like collections, just like Lego fans and what else is there?
Yeah.
Like book fans and whatnot. I just feel like they buy it, so they sell it.
I'm looking back at my shelf
Yeah.
and I'm going, yeah, I'm an easy mark. We're also thinking about what was it, a couple of years ago or just recently WWE had like a Dragon Ball night or like had a anime night that I saw that made the headlines
Yes.
with just recently Across the Spider-Verse. Lisa, she
Mhm.
did a music video for Across the Spider-Verse. Of course, the live action properties, Cowboy Bebop, I'll leave it. Some people really enjoyed it. Take it
Mhm.
or leave it.
Mhm.
Of course, One Piece live action, like we're seeing instances of it being done right. Speed
Mhm.
Racer, the movie, that's getting some love now. That wasn't liked when it came out, but now people are going like, that was a really good movie.
Mhm.
And Alita Battle Angel, this movie was
Oh
fine.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's with anything that becomes more mainstream. I mean, if you want the sort of real extreme examples, again, just look at everything like how much merch gets out for again, like the Star Wars and like all the toys and like you said, the figures
Mhm.
Yeah.
and some of the comic book merch.
Huge
And of
market.
course, you guys went over to have been in Japan, so you see all the kinds of just crazy merchandising that they do over there.
Yep.
So you just got to take the good with the bad
Mhm. Good.
if you're talking
Yeah.
about anything, or even the good with the expensive. But
Right.
overall, I think the next step for the anime community as a large, where we are sitting right now in animation,
Mhm.
there's still quite a hump to get over. Stuff like One Piece and these action properties are kind of helping to, as I hope, are helping to bridge that gap
Mhm.
and kind of go like, hey, we like this. This is what we like in a different medium. So it's obviously not a one to one, but this is something that we enjoy, and it's getting a lot of attention, and a lot of people are enjoying it. So we hope you enjoy it. You just take a property that you think could work in live action, and again, take it or leave it. Even the Cowboy Bebop show, it looks good. It's
Mhm.
just had some flaws in execution, but for people who've never seen Cowboy Bebop, they really liked it. For
Yeah.
folks
Yeah.
like me who've seen Cowboy Bebop, I'm kind of just tisking over
Mhm.
here
You're like,
at some of the things that they did in that show.
ooh.
But I can tell to people like if you enjoyed it, here's the cartoon, and you can kind of give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Yeah.
how I see maybe this going forward. A little bit more bridging the gaps between kind of breaking us out of that purely animation shell. Obviously, I'm always going to prefer something in animation if it began in
Mhm.
Yeah.
animation first.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all one big community. Me personally, I'm not kicking anybody out of the anime community just because they don't like a particular show or if they watch anime in English or I'm
What
kidding.
you said. The pain in your voice. What?
No, I'm kidding. I don't particularly look at the end of the day, if you are enjoying the show and if it's in Japanese, if it's in English, if it's in whatever language that you speak, as long as you are enjoying it. The reason I said the pain in my voice because I was thinking of my husband watching his anime in English. We can't watch our anime together.
Oh, well.
That's unfortunate. But yeah, no, I mean I agree. Anyone can watch it. And the only thing that I worry as it gets more and more mainstream, because personally, I only see it really going that way.
Hmm.
They'll just start spitting out more, you know what I mean? Which can be good and bad, but I feel like in recent years,
Oh, we're
a
already
lot
there.
of the stories are not
We've been
as
there.
high quality as maybe, in my personal opinion, they used to be. They either go for like the really popular ones, but everything else is kind of like spit out as much as we can and let's go for it kind of thing. That's my only like worry as it continues. But I mean, if there's more, there's more, you know, that means that there's more to watch. So I
Yeah,
guess, you know, it could go either way.
yeah. It's definitely an amazing feeling being an anime fan and being able
Hmm.
to interact with other anime fans, not only just through our podcast and Dave listening to your podcast, but everybody that we've interacted with, regardless if it's been in our online community or even just in our everyday lives. I think it's just it feels good when you're able to be yourself and make friends just based on the common things that you all like about
Mhm.
being an anime fan,
Yeah.
regardless of the different types of anime fans. Like with Mikan and myself, she typically just watches the shonen types, and I'm typically the lovey-dovey shoujo types. And she and I have been she and I have been best friends for, let's see, girl, it's been 10
It's
years.
been a decade.
It's been actually it's been over 10 years, but
You still stuck
um
with me.
yeah, she and I are stuck with each other for life, and anime was definitely one of the things that brought us together. And so I just love the fact that this
Hmm.
median brings each and every single one of us together. At the end of the day, it brings us all together.
And it's entertaining.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day as well, the boots on the ground still remains with the local groups, your college anime clubs. There is even one at my local library, and it's kind of gone away since COVID. But there is a even like an anime club space for the junior high kids who would come there after school. And it would just be this hangout space, and they were just watching My Hero Academia. It was a safe space for them to just come in, hang out, just be kids and enjoy
Sold.
Yeah.
cartoons. They were also watching Sailor Moon at one point too. But
Yay.
so the anime clubs are still very much around. Like, and you have your centers in the college, and then your local communities. And I think that's still kind of if the best way to go in is to just kind of find that one friend
Yes.
to kind of like open the door for you, like, get you started right, and kind of teach you our strange ways and our strange Japanese words that we all just like to pronounce in so many various ways.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you. Yeah.
coming on
And
to
thank
the
you for your
show this
insight.
week.
Mhm.
It's been a pleasure speaking to you, having you on the show. Can you please let everybody know where can they find you?
So, again, my podcast is the Treehouse Anime Club. I talk about anime production, actually, and the people who work in the anime industry. There is a little bit of a review segment at the end, but I'm largely talking about the people who work in the anime industry. So, if that sounds interesting to you, you can follow me on Instagram at Treehouse Anime Pod. There's a link to our Discord in there. It's a free invite, no strings attached. So, keep up with the show, plus a couple of extra goodies. Love to have you in our community. If you follow me, you get an episode at least twice a month. We've had a great first year, and I'm looking forward to a productive 2024 as well. So thank you again to the ladies here at Anime Sekai for bringing me in.
He's amazing, guys. Go follow, go listen.
Yes, do it right now. We will be sure to link all of his information down in the description below. So please be sure that you click on the description below and make sure that you are also following us on Instagram and TikTok at Anime Sekai Podcast. Once again, thank you, Dave, for taking the time out to sit with us, chill out, just kind of talk. It's been a pleasure.
I really
Same.
Thank you
appreciate it. Thank you
guys.
very much.
I
Thank
hope you guys
you. Thank
enjoyed.
you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Dave. We loved having you.
Yes, thank you guys so much. And we will catch you guys next week for a brand new episode of Anime Sekai Podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye.